The WNBA is reportedly in full-blown panic mode tonight. Rumors are swirling that rising basketball star Angel Reese has signed a lucrative contract with an overseas league in Asia, a bombshell move that has blindsided just about everyone back home. The news hit like a shockwave. Within hours of the story breaking, sources say WNBA league officials rushed into an emergency meeting behind closed doors, scrambling to figure out how to respond. It's the kind of scenario that once seemed unthinkable. A top young talent, fresh off a championship college career and a celebrated rookie season, potentially abandoning the WNBA for foreign shores. And yet, here we are, with social media buzzing and fans desperate for answers, as speculation runs rampant about what really led Angel Reese to consider taking her talents across the globe. So, what's the deal that could lure a star like Reese away from the WNBA? According to unverified reports, the contract offered by the unnamed Asian League is nothing short of jaw-dropping. Some insiders claim it includes a salary well into the seven figures, several times what Reese could hope to earn on her WNBA rookie deal. To put that in perspective, the base salary for a #1 WNBA draft pick like Caitlin Clark is around $76,000 a year. Even WNBA veterans at the top of the pay scale max out at roughly $230,000 to $250,000 under the current CBA. And Angel Reese herself is reportedly making about $70,000 on her rookie contract. The gulf between those figures and the rumored overseas offer is staggering. If true, this Asian League deal would dwarf not only Reese's current salary, but even the WNBA's highest possible salaries by a wide margin. Money, of course, is only part of the story. The whispers about this contract also mention lavish perks and incentives that have left WNBA fans both amazed and a little envious. Reports claim the deal might include first-class travel accommodations for Reese and her family whenever she flies out for games. A far cry from the commercial flights WNBA players famously had to endure for years. The WNBA only recently began phasing in charter flights for teams in 2024 after decades of grueling travel conditions. Rumors suggest Reese's would-be Asian team is also offering a private luxury apartment, a personal driver and translator, and even full coverage of her living expenses. One source floated the idea that the contract is packed with performance bonuses, everything from hefty cash rewards for winning a championship to endorsement opportunities in the local market. In other words, it sounds like this club is pulling out all the stops to make Angel Reese feel like basketball royalty.
It's not just about creature comforts either. There's talk of Reese getting star treatment on and off the court, something many WNBA players can only dream of. Imagine sold-out arenas where fans treat her like a superstar from day one. Playing abroad can sometimes offer exactly that kind of hero's welcome. As one European basketball observer noted, overseas fans have a way of embracing imported stars. Deliver on the court, and the people in the stands will make you feel like the queen that you are. In an environment like that, a young player could quickly become the face of a franchise. Billboards, TV commercials, the whole nine yards, on top of the game itself. For Angel Reese, who already has a huge persona and following from her college days, the prospect of being the centerpiece of a team's marketing in a new market might be exciting in its own right. Still, it's the cold, hard cash that has everyone talking. Some unconfirmed figures tossed around social media have been eye-popping, the kind of paycheck that would make any athlete do a double take. One rumor boldly claimed the deal could be worth $1 million for a single season. Now, that number has not been verified, but it wouldn't be unprecedented. In fact, overseas leagues, especially in places like China, have been known to offer WNBA stars huge sums for short stints. In one notable example, All-Star center Liz Cambage reportedly signed a contract worth up to $1 million for just a 3-month season in China. Yes, you read that right. $1 million for a winter's worth of games. Much of it was tied to bonuses and championships, but still, the potential was there. So, the idea that an ambitious Asian club might dangle a similar figure for Angel Reese isn't as crazy as it sounds. It underscores a reality that has been an open secret in women's basketball for years. Outside the WNBA, the financial playing field is completely different.
As all this sinks in, the WNBA's top brass are reportedly sweating bullets. The alleged emergency meeting was, if the rumors are accurate, a frantic attempt to get ahead of a situation that could spiral into a crisis for the league. One league insider, speaking off the record, supposedly described the mood in that closed-door session as urgent and borderline alarmed. And who could blame them? Losing a player of Angel Reese's caliber, a young star with a national championship pedigree and a massive following, would be a huge blow to the W's growing momentum. Just imagine, Reese was supposed to be one of the league's new marquee attractions, part of a much-hyped rookie class. The WNBA has been banking on young personalities like her and Caitlin Clark, her collegiate rival, to draw in fans and boost ratings. For the league, seeing one of those crown jewels pack her bags for an overseas league is the stuff of nightmares. So what exactly are WNBA executives saying and doing in response? Officially, not much yet, at least not publicly. The league hasn't released a statement on the situation at this point, which isn't surprising given that everything is still rumors and reports. But behind the scenes, it sounds like the conversation is intense. Word is that Commissioner Kathy Engelbert and the team owners jumped on a conference call almost immediately, combing through their options. How could they convince Angel Reese to reconsider? Is there anything that WNBA can offer right now that would come close to matching what's on the table overseas? According to sources quoted by one sports outlet, there was talk of the WNBA exploring creative solutions, perhaps seeking outside sponsorship deals or accelerated marketing opportunities specifically for Reese to make staying in the US more enticing. One can picture the urgency in that hypothetical virtual meeting, executives throwing out suggestions, crunching numbers, and maybe even debating emergency measures like adjusting salary cap rules or exceptions, although any drastic change would be complicated by league regulations and the existing collective bargaining agreement. League officials are reportedly also fretting about the broader implications. If Angel Reese does indeed sign this contract abroad, would that set a precedent for other stars to follow? This is the domino effect everyone in that meeting is likely terrified of. A single high-profile departure might be contained, but if it becomes a trend, if tomorrow another young star or even a veteran all-WNBA player announces a similar move, the stability of the league itself could be tested.
That is probably why the WNBA higher-ups are treating this rumored Reese deal as a 5-alarm fire. Even without confirmation, just the idea of it is prompting some serious soul-searching among league leadership. The concerns reportedly voiced by league executives go beyond just one player. The WNBA front offices have long been aware that many players earn significant income overseas in the offseason. But there's always been an expectation, or perhaps a hope, that the league itself remains every player's top priority and ultimate stage. The WNBA wants its stars front and center during the summer, showcasing their talents at home. If a marquee name like Reese were to effectively prioritize an overseas league instead, possibly even sitting out a WNBA season to do so, it challenges that whole paradigm. According to insiders, some executives in the emergency meeting cautioned that this could be a tipping point, raising hard questions about how to keep the league's best talent from being lured away by foreign leagues. It's worth noting that the timing of this could not be more sensitive for the WNBA. The league and its players' union have been in the midst of tense negotiations around a new collective bargaining agreement. In fact, the current CBA is set to expire in a matter of months, and both sides have been jockeying over key issues like salaries, revenue sharing, and players' rights. The players recently exercised their option to opt out of the old agreement early, meaning it will end after the 2025 season unless a new deal is struck. In other words, a labor showdown is looming, and a potential standoff, even a lockout, is on the table if things don't get resolved. Into that already volatile mix drops this Angel Reese saga, like a lit match near a powder keg.
Unsurprisingly, the players are watching all of this extremely closely. Some of Reese's WNBA peers have already been vocal about league conditions and pay, and one can only imagine the chatter in group chats and locker rooms right now. If the reports are accurate and Reese is weighing an overseas leap, many players probably feel a mix of envy and frustration. Envy because, let's face it, who wouldn't be tempted by a massive paycheck and VIP treatment? And frustration because it underscores the very issues they've been raising with the league for years. For instance, Indiana Fever guard Sophie Cunningham recently put it bluntly when discussing the ongoing CBA talks. There's a potential lockout. I promise you we aren't going to play until they give us what we deserve. That fiery statement, coming from a respected veteran, shows just how fed up players are getting. They see franchise valuations skyrocketing and new TV deals being signed, yet their own salaries, while improved in recent years, remain relatively modest. If Reese is indeed taking a stand, intentionally or not, by choosing a better deal abroad, other players might feel emboldened to push even harder for change. Some might even be thinking, if the league doesn't shape up, maybe I should follow her lead.
Now, let's talk about the fans and how they're reacting to these swirling rumors. As expected, it's been an emotional roller coaster. When the story first broke on social media that Angel Reese might be signing with an Asian league, shock was the immediate reaction. Many fans didn't want to believe it. "No way this is true," one fan tweeted, encapsulating the disbelief. But as the evening went on and more outlets started echoing the news, even if cautiously, the tone shifted to panic and debate. Some die-hard WNBA supporters are practically begging Reese to stay, flooding her Instagram comments with things like, "We need you in the W," and "Don't abandon the league, Angel." You can sense a bit of heartbreak there. After all, fans have been invested in Reese's journey, from her LSU championship heroics to her entry into the WNBA. On the flip side, a considerable portion of the fan base is expressing outright support for Reese's rumored decision. They argue that she has every right to secure the bag and do what's best for her career. "Know your worth, Queen," a supporter wrote on a forum, reflecting a sentiment that has gained momentum among women's basketball followers. These fans point to the pay disparity, how women athletes often have to go overseas to make what they deserve, and they're framing Reese as someone who's boldly challenging the status quo. In this view, if the WNBA can't compete with the offer, that's on the league, not on Reese. It's a perspective that's fueled many discussions recently, especially since players like Reese and Caitlin Clark became millionaires via college NIL deals, and might feel that the WNBA salaries don't match their star power.
Media personalities and sports pundits, meanwhile, have wasted no time diving into the debate. Turn on any sports talk show or check the big sports sites, and you'll find heated conversations about what this means. One popular analyst mused, "Is the WNBA about to face its biggest talent drain ever?" He went on to compare the situation to a hypothetical nightmare in the NBA. Imagine a young LeBron James-level talent opting to play internationally instead of the NBA during his prime. It sounds far-fetched, he admitted, but for the WNBA, it's a real concern. Others are taking a more solutions-oriented approach on air, speculating about what the league can do to fix this. Suggestions range from the realistic, increase the salary cap, allow teams to pay star players more, to the more imaginative, secure a one-off sponsorship to pay Reese a star stipend, for example. The consensus among many commentators is that this is a wake-up call for the WNBA. Reports claim that some commentators are even calling it a make-or-break moment. If the league doesn't act decisively, they warn, this could open the floodgates for more players to leave. We're also hearing some fascinating speculative tidbits about how WNBA team staff and coaches are handling the news. The Chicago Sky, the team that drafted Angel Reese in 2024, are in an especially tough spot if this rumor holds true. Off the record, a member of the Sky's coaching staff allegedly vented that the team was caught completely off guard by Reese's possible move. "We found out on Twitter, just like everyone else," this person reportedly said, frustration evident in their words. If true, that indicates Reese's camp kept things very quiet, likely because nothing is official yet, but from the team's perspective, it's little consolation. The Sky's front office is undoubtedly running through contingency plans. Losing a young star prospect after just one season, or before her second even begins, would be a big hit to any team's long-term plans. You'd have a hole in the roster, and more importantly, a hole in the franchise's marketing strategy because players like Reese are not easily replaceable. Some sources suggest the Sky executives have been in constant communication with league officials as this unfolds, trying to figure out if there's any contractual way to dissuade Reese, or if they just have to brace themselves for the worst. Amid all this contemporary chaos, it's instructive to remember that the concept of WNBA players going overseas is not new at all. In fact, it's been a cornerstone of women's basketball careers for decades, though usually it's done in addition to playing in the WNBA, not instead of it. Virtually every WNBA offseason, a majority of players pack their bags and head to leagues in Europe, Asia, or elsewhere to supplement their income and stay in competitive shape. The WNBA season is relatively short, summer months only, and historically, W players have felt almost compelled to find overseas gigs during the fall and winter to make a decent living. For many players, it's just the way of life. WNBA in the summer for the love and legacy, Europe or Asia in the winter for the money.
However, what's happening with Angel Reese, if the rumors are accurate, is something more seismic. This isn't just about going overseas in the off-season. This sounds like a potential full-time commitment, or at least one that conflicts with her WNBA obligations. That's why it's drawing comparisons to a few high-profile instances in the past, where WNBA stars did indeed choose to prioritize overseas play, even at the cost of missing time at home. Perhaps the most famous case was in 2015, when Diana Taurasi, one of the league's all-time greats, stunned fans by sitting out the entire WNBA season. The reason? Her Russian club team, backed by a wealthy sponsor, offered to pay her well over her WNBA salary to rest and not risk injury that summer. Taurasi reportedly earned a massive paycheck, around $1.5 million from that Russian team, a figure that absolutely dwarfed the WNBA max salary at the time, essentially to take a summer off from the grind of the WNBA. It was a controversial move, and it sparked a lot of debate about loyalty and the state of the league. But Taurasi was very straightforward. Financially, it made sense for her, and at her age, early 30s then, she wanted to prolong her career. A couple of years later, in 2017, another star, Angel McCoughtry, also stepped away from the WNBA for a season. McCoughtry was at her peak with the Atlanta Dream, but she opted to rest and presumably focus on overseas opportunities and personal health. Fans missed her that summer, but again, it highlighted that for top women players, WNBA participation wasn't a given if other opportunities, or simply recovery time funded by foreign deals, came calling. These instances were relatively rare, though. Taurasi and McCoughtry are often brought up precisely because it's not common for a star to completely skip a WNBA season.
What makes the Angel Reese situation so intriguing and perhaps alarming for the league is that she's at the very start of her pro career. Taurasi and McCoughtry made their choices after years in the league. They had already given a lot to the WNBA and earned their titles and MVPs. Reese, on the other hand, is just 21, 22 years old and fresh off her rookie season. If someone of her age and star potential is willing to even consider bypassing the WNBA for a better offer elsewhere, it represents a shift in mindset. It suggests that the new generation of players who grew up seeing their predecessors have to play year-round to make ends meet might be more willing to take a different route. Indeed, younger stars today have more leverage and arguably less patience for the old play for passion, not for pay mantra that long underpinned the WNBA. Many of them made big money in college thanks to NIL endorsements, as mentioned earlier. They're entering the pro ranks already aware of their market value. Reese and Caitlin Clark, for example, reportedly had NIL valuations in the millions by the end of their college careers. They tasted financial rewards and fame before ever setting foot in the WNBA. So if the WNBA doesn't catch up quickly in salary, in marketing opportunities, in overall treatment, these players won't feel the same sense of obligation to stick around out of sheer loyalty or for the love of the game. They love the game, no doubt, but they also know it's a business, and they want to be compensated fairly. Reese considering or accepting an overseas contract could be seen as a direct extension of that mindset.
Let's dig a bit deeper into the WNBA's salary structure and why players like Reese might be enticed elsewhere. As of the current CBA, the WNBA operates under a hard salary cap and a relatively tightly controlled pay scale. The very top players can earn a supermax contract, which in recent years has been in the ballpark of $230,000 per season and will rise to roughly $264,000 by 2027. The average player makes much less, and rookies are usually in the $60K to $75K range, as we saw with Reese and Clark. Those numbers are certainly improvements from a decade ago when the max salary was barely over $100K, but they're still limited by the league's economics and collective bargaining limits. Overseas, the model is entirely different. Leagues in countries like Russia, Turkey, and China have for years ponied up big bucks for top talent, often unconstrained by the need to turn a profit or maintain parity. Many of these teams are bankrolled by wealthy owners, corporations, or even government entities that treat women's basketball as a prestige project. They aren't concerned if their club operates at a loss. They're not afraid to spend money on salaries, housing, and other perks to ensure they attract the best players in the world. The result? Players like Breanna Stewart can earn in one winter season in, say, Turkey or China, what would take 6 or 7 WNBA seasons to match. For instance, Stewart has been reported to make roughly $1.5 million in overseas leagues per season, compared to the WNBA Supermax of about $228K at the time. This stark contrast is exactly why the WNBA's new generation is restless.
Beyond salaries, consider the overall professional experience. Until this past season, WNBA players dealt with commercial flights, which often meant early mornings, layovers, delays. Not exactly glamorous or ideal for peak athletic performance. Overseas teams, particularly the top ones, often charter flights for their players or at least fly them business class. They provide dedicated medical staffs, sometimes personal chefs or nutritionists, and usually free lodging in cars for the imports. A lot of WNBA players have stories of arriving in Europe or Asia and being given the keys to a nice apartment and maybe even a company car, plus a translator or team staffer to help navigate the new city. These may sound like small things, but when you're far from home, those perks significantly improve quality of life. And then there's the fan culture and marketing side. In some European and Asian cities, women's basketball games draw intense crowds. In Turkey, for example, local derbies between powerhouse clubs can get rowdy and passionate. In China, some American players have reported feeling like superstars with how much attention they get from fans. Remember that not all overseas leagues are equal, of course, but the top-tier teams treat their players extremely well because they're invested in winning and in the prestige those wins bring. The WNBA, for all its growth, still sometimes struggles with marketing its stars beyond certain markets. As a quick example, Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese lit up the NCAA and became household names during March Madness, something the WNBA hopes to capitalize on. But if a player like Reese thinks her brand could grow just as much, and her wallet grow more, by being, say, the face of Chinese women's basketball for a year, that's a real consideration.
Now, to be fair, there are downsides and challenges to going overseas too. It's far from family, the cultural adjustment can be hard, and not everyone loves the experience of being abroad for months on end. Some players cherish being home in the US, near their support systems. The WNBA, for its part, has been trying to improve conditions to entice players to stay home more in the offseason. For instance, they've introduced new marketing agreements where players can earn extra money by doing clinics or promotional work in their WNBA cities during the winter. The league also finally made the move to provide charter flights in the 2024 season for all teams, which was a huge win for players and took away one of the long-standing complaints. Commissioner Engelbert often talks about sustainability and slowly growing the business so that salaries can increase in the long term. And indeed, the WNBA is negotiating a new media rights deal that is reportedly worth billions over the next decade, which could inject more revenue into the league. So things are trending up, but the players want that upside to translate into their paychecks sooner rather than later. The clash between player aspirations and league limitations is coming to a head right now with the ongoing CBA negotiations. Angel Reese herself has been outspoken about players deserving more. On her own podcast earlier this year, she openly discussed the possibility of a players' strike if the next CBA doesn't significantly improve things. "We deserve more. Everybody. Everybody. If y'all don't give us what we want, we sitting out," Reese said emphatically. That quote circulated widely and showed that Reese, despite being a rookie, isn't afraid to speak truth to power in the WNBA.
She even got support from veteran players and fans for taking that stance. Knowing that context, one can see her rumored overseas contract decision in a different light. It aligns with the pressure she's been putting on the league. It's almost as if she's saying, I meant what I said. I know my worth, and I have options.
So, what could this all mean for other rising stars, especially someone like Caitlin Clark? Clark is essentially the face of the next generation, a transcendent talent with a massive following. Her college games drew huge TV ratings. The WNBA is desperate to have her become the centerpiece of the league once she fully arrives. If Angel Reese is on the verge of flipping the script and chasing overseas riches, you can bet the question on every executive's mind is, please, not Caitlin next. It might sound dramatic, but consider the scenario. Clark sees Reese's success abroad. Hypothetically, Reese could come back from a year in Asia with more money in her bank account than she'd make in 5 years in the WNBA, plus possibly a championship and new fans abroad. And Clark might think, why not explore that herself? Now, Clark, thus far, has given every indication she's committed to the WNBA path. She turned down the chance to go pro early in 2024, staying at Iowa for an extra year, which some speculated was because her NIL deals in college were more lucrative than a rookie WNBA salary. When she does enter the WNBA, she'll immediately be one of the top-paid players due to her marketability, and she might not need to go overseas if endorsements at home keep rolling in. In fact, some experts project Clark could continue to earn 7 figures annually through sponsorships and commercials without leaving the States. However, if the WNBA doesn't improve structurally, even a star like Clark could be tempted by what overseas leagues offer. Think about it. If a megastar like Clark went to, say, Europe for the winter, it could be framed as a global ambassador move, not just chasing a paycheck. She could dominate EuroLeague women, get paid handsomely, and still return for the WNBA season, assuming prioritization rules don't interfere. More on that shortly. The key difference in her case is that the WNBA would probably move mountains to keep her happy. There's speculation, again, rumors suggest, that the league and its teams might create special marketing deals to effectively boost what players like Clark, and by extension Reese, earn domestically, precisely to dissuade them from looking elsewhere. The league did something along these lines with Breanna Stewart and others, by allowing core players to sign marketing agreements that push their total compensation towards $500,000 in some cases. But is that enough when overseas is offering double that for half the work? It's a tough sell.
There's also the matter of the WNBA's prioritization rule, which we need to touch on because it's directly relevant to this situation. In the last CBA, signed in 2020, the league instituted a new rule to address the overseas versus WNBA conflict. Essentially starting in 2023 and ramping up in 2024, any player with more than 2 years of experience who doesn't report to her WNBA team by the start of training camp or a fixed date, like May 1, is barred from the WNBA season. In 2023, the rule was slightly more lenient, fines for being late, suspension if missing games. But by 2024, it's strict. If you're not back from overseas in time, you cannot play in the WNBA that year. No exceptions, except for national team duty or very specific circumstances. This rule, called prioritization, was the owner's way of forcing players to choose the WNBA first, theoretically to strengthen the league. The players agreed to it back then in exchange for some salary bumps and benefits, but many players never liked it and are now expected to push back against it in the new negotiations. Why does prioritization matter for Angel Reese? Well, Reese just finished her first year, so technically she's still exempt from penalties. The rule kicks in fully after a player's second year. But if she were to sign a multi-year deal in Asia that conflicts with WNBA schedules down the line, she'd have a problem. By 2026, she would face suspension if she chose to play overseas and miss WNBA camp. Perhaps more immediately, even in 2025, her second year, she's allowed to be late under the rules, but by 2025, the expectation is to report on time unless you're a younger player. If Reese is thinking long-term, she and her agent might be strategizing around this. They might angle for a 1-year overseas payday now, while she can do so without suspension risk, and then see what happens with the new CBA. If the players successfully kill or soften the prioritization rule in the next agreement, something a lot of veterans like Sato Sabali have hinted they want, then Reese could have more freedom to keep doing this in the future.
All this labor wrangling may be inside baseball, but it directly impacts how the WNBA might respond to Reese. If the league feels it's about to lose grip on players due to overseas incentives, it may have to compromise on prioritization. or find other ways to incentivize players to stay. The current trajectory was that the WNBA was drawing a line in the sand saying no more missing our season for overseas commitments. But that stance is hard to maintain if a star just says, okay, fine, I'll skip your season entirely and make triple the money elsewhere. The league could threaten a suspension, which is essentially what the rule is, a threat. But that's a lose-lose. The player is gone anyway, and now you've officially banned them, which doesn't help anyone. It's a delicate game of chicken, and the Angel Reese situation is bringing it to the forefront in a very real way. As the hours go by, more and more voices are chiming in on what the WNBA should do next. Some longtime WNBA followers are drawing parallels to previous eras, or even other sports. One notable comment making the rounds is that the WNBA might be at a crossroads, similar to where men's soccer was years ago, when top players started going to higher-paying leagues, like when European soccer players would go to suddenly rich clubs in other countries. The idea is that money can shift power in sports quickly, and the WNBA has to adapt or risk being left behind in the talent arms race. The league's saving grace could be the very thing causing the strife. It's talent. The reason overseas leagues covet players like Angel Reese or Breanna Stewart or Jonquel Jones is because the WNBA has developed them into world-class talents. The WNBA is still where the best play. It's the league with the highest competition level, the one every player grew up dreaming of. That intrinsic prestige is something no overseas league fully matches, so the WNBA has that going for it. Players generally want to play here at some point to test themselves and to be on the biggest domestic stage. However, players also have a short window to maximize their earnings and careers, so it's a constant push and pull.
As we wrap up this dramatic turn of events, it's clear that the stakes go beyond just Angel Reese or one off-season decision. This emergency meeting and the rumored contract offer have exposed deeper issues and anxieties. Will Angel Reese truly head to Asia to start next season? Or will something change in the 11th hour to keep her stateside? The coming days or weeks should give us that answer. And whichever way it goes, the repercussions will be felt league-wide. If she stays, perhaps it means the WNBA found a way to satisfy her, a harbinger of positive changes to come for all players. If she goes, it could very well light a fire under the league and the owners to hasten reforms, lest they see a parade of departures in the future. For other rising stars like Caitlin Clark, the situation is both cautionary and empowering. It's cautionary in that it highlights potential conflict zones in a WNBA career, the fact that even your biggest idols might choose a different path for business reasons. But it's empowering because it gives players leverage. Clark and others can point to this episode in their future contract negotiations. Look, other leagues can and will pay us what we're worth if you won't. In the end, the hope among fans and many players is that the WNBA will take this moment to evolve, to improve pay, conditions, and flexibility so that staying home becomes as attractive, if not more than, going abroad. One thing's for sure, this is one of the most consequential rumors in WNBA history. It has everyone from league executives to casual fans on the edge of their seats, and it's injected a ton of drama into the normally quiet WNBA offseason. Keep your eyes peeled for official updates, but in the meantime, the discussion sparked by Angel Reese's possible overseas leap might very well drive the WNBA to make the kind of changes players have been seeking for years. Whether you view her rumored move as a bold player empowerment play, a worrying sign for the league, or a bit of both, it's impossible to ignore. The ball is now in the WNBA's court, and all of women's basketball is watching to see how they handle it.